Welcome to Close of Play with me, Sanjay Murthy. We welcome today the ICC's senior cricket TV director, a man who has brought us some of the most iconic events across world cricket over a number of years. We'll delve into what life behind the camera, behind the scenes is like in global events that we've all enjoyed, such as iconic moments from the 2019 World Cup. And who can forget that super over and Ben Stokes' deflected four? Certainly not the Kiwis. Welcome to Close of Play, my good friend, Gavin Scovell. Gav, how are you?
Sanjay, it's a pleasure to be on Close of Play. Thanks for having me on, mate.
No, pleasure. I think it's interesting. We've had a number of sort of people on. We've had players, we've had journalists. Actually, you've been brought up, I think I told you this the other day. You've come up twice in Close of Play already. When you told me that story about, I think it was in the pandemic when the screens went blank and you were doing remote directing. You can tell us a bit more about that story, but I think what I'd like to get into today is really what is a day in the life of Gavin Scovell look like when you are, in charge of bringing to a global audience, a game of cricket and World Cup finals in that.
Well, basically, you are painting the picture for the viewer at home. So what the viewer at home sees on the television is what I sort of put to how I visualize what is going on. And the way I look at it is, what do I want to see from my couch at home if I'm watching a game, be it football, cricket, rugby, but let's stick to cricket. Because what I have a bank of sometimes up to 70 monitors, and I watch it all at the same time, and I cut the cameras, cue the commentators. You've got all these tools at your disposal. You have the graphics, you have audio, you have ball tracking technology, you have the third umpire in your ear talking to you. So the key to directing live sport is the fact that you have every ball. I probably have 5 or 6 people offering me replays or graphics or Hawkeye or whatever. And you have to filtering it down. So you've got to be very good at listening on multiple levels, but also really it's a tapestry. And for me, that screen is a blank canvas. And what do I want to, I don't just throw things on it. I want to construct an image and tell a story, create a drama. It's all about creating a drama through storytelling.
And how do you prioritize all of that information that you're being fed all of the time, both visually and audially?
Well, I'm definitely on the spectrum. Although I don't think I'll be able to do it, but I have quite a wide field of vision, and that's something that I just developed. Used to play quite a bit of cricket myself. Didn't quite make it, although I came close. I played a bit of county seconds.
I'll be two of us then.
Still play a bit now, but
Yeah.
I didn't quite make it. So, I turned to reporting, worked with Sky Sports on football, and they found out I was into cricket. So they sent me off to New Zealand, where I met Martin Crowe, who was my mentor, the former great Kiwi batter. And that was it. I got thrown into replay directing, which is a very visual medium. My mother was an artist. My dad is a sports writer and author. So really, I fell into it. And I'm very lucky that I had those contacts and that opportunity.
And so working with Sky, but you were a reporter. I think, isn't there a story where you were quite nervous at the beginning interviewing? I think it was a football manager, and he put you at ease. And these are all sort of the learning cues that you've had over the years.
That's right, Sanjay. I went up to Newcastle on my first day at work at Sky, and I had to interview Kevin Keegan. And it was in the 90s, and it was a great time to be involved in the Premiership, because had the Manchester United team that you had, and Kevin Keegan. It was only a few months before he got the boot for his media outburst, but I had to go and interview him, and I was so nervous because it was a live interview, and I'd never done it before, and there's no feedback, and we'll talk about this later. But television, there's very little feedback, and I was about to go on air, and he saw I was shaking, and he said to me, "What's your name, son?" And I said, "Gavin." He said, "Right." So we go on air, and I said, "Kevin, big game tomorrow, St. James's Park, full house expected. What are your expectations?" He says to me, "Now, Gavin, listen." And immediately that affected, and it made me calm. So yeah, it was a nice lesson.
Now, Gavin, so a day in the life. So how much preparation do you have to do prior to, let's say we've got a a World Cup final that's going to start at 11 o'clock, for sake of example. What time do you get to the ground? Is there like a briefing with the rest of the team? How does that all work?
Well, the preparation starts months before the event, Sanjay. With the crewing, I'm involved sometimes I'm involved in the crewing of an event. So if there's a World Cup, for instance, say in England 2019, we had 5 crews going around England. So that's 5 crew, 5 times over 200 people. So there's an enormous amount of logistics that has to be prepared. And we have a fantastic team of people who do all that for us. And then I'll help in terms of crewing the cameramen, the soundmen, the audio men, the engineers, the people that you work with and you're in sync with. And it's about creating a team of people, because I'm only as good as them. And I have my generals in certain positions, like my sound senior, my camera supervisor, my VT coordinator. These are people who really help out, and you can't do it all. It's just too big and too much information impact overload. But when you have people telling you that what's good, and it really makes the job a lot easier. So just to answer your question, I say World Cup final starts at 11. We'll probably have to be there at 7:30. We'll have meetings. We'll have facts check where we check all the kit. We did the World Test Championship recently. Great match that South Africa won. And we had 53 cameras. I think it was a world record for cricket, 53. And we had cameras all over the long room, up and down the pavilion stairs, mini drones around the back of the Coronation Gardens and the Harris Gardens. And, being a Lord's member myself, those are areas that I'd never seen before on television. And the MCC were kind enough with the ECB to give us that access, and the ICC that access, and to show Lords off like it's never been seen before.
And that access, whilst obviously they have to grant it, do the ideas for where cameras need to be positioned and the views you want to give the viewers, do they come from you, or how does that work?
Yeah, there's a few of us. We have creative director as well, and myself, and the ICC as well. They're really good at sort of reinventing how cricket is seen and is broadcast. And as I said to you, for me, I want to get close to the action. I want to be standing at that crease or walking out to bat, with spider cam. I want to be walking out through that pavilion long room, and I want to see that, and I want to feel that energy and disseminate that through the TV screen.
Something that it seems to be only done in Australia is the miking up of the players. Do you think is a reason for that hasn't sort of quite taken on? Is that from the broadcaster side? Is that from the sort of the governing body side?
No, that's been done a lot. I do CPL every year. We do it there. The PSL do it. The IPL. I mean, it's been done a lot. I mean,
right.
There's only a certain amount of players that will do it, and it has to add value. We're all about adding value, and if it doesn't add value, if someone's saying hello, can you hear me? Hello, that's not going to add value. But if you've got a strong speaker, somebody good like Sam Billings who's keeping wicket and wearing it, and the kit isn't too obstructive for him or for whoever's doing it, then yeah, it will add value. So no, we've done that quite a bit, but there's always new avenues to explore.
The great Shane Warne was a fantastic exponent of talking through how he's going to set a batsman up or set a batter up, and then pretty much every single time delivered on that. It was great insight into skills and mindset of a great player.
Do you know, I remember that in the Big Bash when he was mic'd up and he was describing exactly how he was going to get a batter out, and that was gold. Yeah. Not a lot of bowlers will wear that technology because it is a bit clunky, but they are inventing new technologies. Now I'm working alongside with a helmet cam maker, which is really interesting what's going on there, because for years we've never had a decent one because of pollution. It's just there's too much going on. But by using it on different players, and we have been experimenting on wicket keepers and umpires and etc., bowlers, and listening to what players are saying to each other between overs, because between overs there's so much going on. Some broadcasters take commercial breaks, so we don't see that, but there is a lot more. And the non-striker in cricket is somebody you hardly ever see. So there's a lot to explore. And cameras, maybe putting cameras on field a bit more that don't get in the way. Yeah, we're looking at different ways to improve the experience.
And as technology improves and you have more options, the viewer gets a better insight because they're getting more use of technology. But is that a hindrance to you in terms of you've already got 50 odd cameras and you've got 70 odd screens and loads of kit. And as you keep adding more and more and more, what does that do to your job?
Well, we have different suppliers, and we have ball tracking suppliers, we have graphic suppliers, and it's in their edict to develop new technologies. And some of it's, I think, really amazing, and some of it I'm sort of getting to learn and to how to use it. So it has to add value, really. But it's a combination of, like, it's like putting together a 500-piece jigsaw, Sanjay, and using certain pieces that getting the corners done first. You know exactly how it works. So you have to sort of try things. And but yeah, there's no right or wrong answer. It's a perception. It's of how. But I feel the game. I'm indulge into it, and I make sure that it's a flow state. And for me, when everything works best and television works best, the director is in this sort of flow state where everything sort of happens. Replays happen, graphics happen, everything sort of is seamless. People are listening, so somebody will be doing something on Hawkeye, and then the replay will piggyback to a relevant replay off the back of it. So everybody's working in tandem, and the production is just what I call mint. And days like that are pretty rare, but when you get on the run, or you have the ability to work with people that you trust, that's when it's gold.
And is it entirely your decision what bit of technology you use? Or do you have to use all of it?
It's not my decision. It's the ICC decision.
Okay, fine. So you use it. How you use it and when you use it is up to you, but you've got to use it all.
Yeah, I don't have to, but yeah, if it's right time, and that's the key, is not overusing it, but instructing and remembering who your audience is.
Yeah.
Right? Not everybody is a cricket coach. It might be an 8-year-old or an 88-year-old. It might be someone who's never seen the game. So it's about explaining the intricacies, because it is like chess, isn't it? It really is. And as a director, you've got to understand the game. You've got to set that field. You've got to really take the viewer onto that pitch.
And the crucial part of telling that story are the commentators. And there's a lot of ex-players who are now commentators on TV. There's some who weren't players at all, but they're a crucial part in telling that story. How's their role changed over the years?
Commentary is a real art, and for me, something I've discovered, and I started training commentators and presenters, reporters, and pundits about 20 years ago, when I saw a gap in the market when we were doing Channel 4 cricket, and we had a former England player whose name I won't mention, and he came in and he was terrible, and everybody at the end shook his hand and said, "Well done, you were great." He walked out of our truck, and somebody said, "Oh, we'll never use him again." And I'm like, well, that's not fair. There's no feedback. There's very little feedback. I wouldn't say there's no feedback in the industry. So what I did is I started a company where I can train commentators, presenters, pundits in broadcasting. So I have all these behind the scenes videos that I make might be in Lahore, it might be in Colombo, where I was recently for the Women's World Cup, America, wherever I'm working, Caribbean. And I go behind the scenes, because it's so important that the commentator understands that they are literally one piece in this puzzle. And they have to understand what that noise is, who's talking to them in their ear, how to project their voice, because this camera here sucks out 25% of your vim, of your infuse. So how do you get that extra 25%? You don't speak louder, you don't confuse loudness with emphasis, but you pause, you breathe, you talk more deliberately. And that's what I try and train people to do. Not describe what's happening, to embellish it with analysis, to explain it, but also to predict.
Yeah, and do you think that's why so many ex-players have become, commentators?
Yes, absolutely. They have the knowledge to do that, and it's the analysis. I mean, it can be as Ian Bishop, for example, one of my good friends and someone I've worked with for many years, really embraces the technology. Katie Martin does it a lot, and those two, more than anybody else I've worked with, are sitting down in the morning when we get in. They'll be there early. They'll be sitting with the ball tracking guys and planning what they're going to do for their pitch report for their fifth over of the first innings or whatever. But then when we go on air, there's a button called the lazy, and he'll press that button and only the crew hear him, not the world. So he might say, "Gav, can you show me my Hawkeye piece?" So I'll roll it in at the right point in the match, and the words match the pictures. because he knows what's coming because he's prepared it. So everybody says, well, he's good. He's prepared it. You see, so preparation is a massive part of commentary. And people who think, yeah, I've played cricket, I can just turn up and do this, are disillusioned. It is an art. Trust me.
That's interesting, isn't it? That balance between preparation and spontaneity, because it's keeping with Ian Bishop, the 2016 T20 World Cup Final.
The name.
Remember that exactly, yeah, when Carlos Brathwaite smacking Ben Stokes out of the park for 4 consecutive sixes. That's an art form in itself. Ian Smith with the 2019 World Cup Final with the run-outs and all those sort of things. It's it must be. The good ones maybe balance out the spontaneity with the statistical analysis and the preparation, because if you go either way, you've lost the audience, I assume.
Well, it's amazing, isn't it? I actually I did both of those games, 2016 Cal Cup, 2019 Lords, and the best bits of commentary were 3 words. Remember the name, barest of margins, right? And there are the expressions that we remember. So commentary is not about long-winded description. No, it's often sound bites. It's euphemism. It's, oh, what? That is ridiculous. Unbelievable. Magnificent. Break the word down into syllables and deliver it at the right time over the image. The image is telling that story. So embrace the story and add value to it. Don't describe it. And that's where Bish and that's where Smithy are so good, is they cut to the chase. They never say, I think. They don't think, they know. Otherwise, they wouldn't be sitting there, right? So it's the commentator who has a strong opinion. And I interviewed Bish once, and he said to me, my mantra, 2 things. Richie Benno, the great Benno, who I was lucky enough to work with at Channel 4, used to say, engage brain before mouth, which is a brilliant one. And Ian Smith and Ian Bishop actually says to me, strong opinion between breaths. Like,
yeah, so that's good, isn't it?
Don't rush it out.
Yeah.
If you stay in the present sentence you're in, you'll always finish it. Whereas if you're thinking too fast and you're thinking about the next thing, you're going to and err. And that's the same for anyone, public speakers, whether you're in a class when you're giving a talk to a classroom of kids or whatever it is, a speech, a best man speech, stay in that present sentence and you'll always finish it.
And I think that's something I found quite interesting, having done radio commentary and then done TV commentary training with you. The difference is stark. And I certainly struggled with the TV commentary, as you well know, with regards to that sort of compulsion to describe things. And I remember when we did one of our sessions, you told me, and you thought it was a bit extreme, that the great Richie Benno didn't say a word for 3 overs. That takes some confidence to do that.
Yes, it does. And I wouldn't advise 3 overs.
No, it's probably too much.
When one of my Benno stories is a game at Lords, and it was the Ganguly shirt match. You remember that? And it was a brilliant catch by James Kirtley in the Sussex quick bowler in the deep, and everyone was going nuts, and they had a great replay, and then there was hardly any comments like, what's going on? And then the replay happens and nothing, and I'm like, we lost comms. I look up and I saw, I think it was Richie was with Mark Nicholas and wasn't saying anything, and Richie sort of was restraining Mark a bit and saying, anyway, then I score the batsman and walk him off. Richie picks up the mic. Well, you can watch cricket many years and you might not see a catch quite as good as that. It's 40 for 2 or whatever it was. I can't remember. But it was that control over the moment. He nailed it. Absolutely. Yeah. And he didn't destroy it by shouting and screaming over it like a lot of commentators might do, because they're nervous. They have that energy and you want to speak fast. No, they're forgetting to breathe. Posture, breathing, mic technique, 5 to be task. All of these things are massive.
And how much of that is cultural? So if you let's say we actually, it's cultural and also time, if you like, right? So that was back in the, let's say, the early 2000s. And then today, if you look at the way that sport has evolved to be much more, the crossover between sport and entertainment is a lot greater than it was 20 years ago. Sure. And if you look at today's commentators, they're much more enthusiastic, on the TV, because the cameras are on them as well as on the scene. Then you look at the Indian commentators in the IPL, it's very enthusiastic, lots of words. Do you think that's a natural movement of society, and commentators are just sort of coming along with that?
what I say to commentators, look, depending on the broadcaster that you're working for, you have to be flexible. You cannot be the same voice in the same place. Because, in places like in the subcontinent, they want more words. And they say, at the end of the over, they don't say, we're back. They say, cue on. And that puts pressure on you to pick up the mic and say something. But they want that. They want that, more graphics, more cuts, more entertainment. And that's fine. That's their style. So, yeah, if you're going to interview, say, for Star in India, you would probably say more words than you would if you're working on a world for Sky or for another channel.
You touched on your commentator training, but if there's some younger people, in fact, I did it, as I told you just before we started, I hosted a moderated a conference for a couple of days, and a few people sort of said to me afterwards, how do I get into TV? Now, whether it's presenting or behind the camera, what are the routes that you took, or what are the routes you would advise, I guess, for people who want to get into media?
Well, any young person, and I do talks at universities as well, for younger people, anybody who wants to get into the media has to have two things. One is a show reel of what they've done, because that's your passport into the industry. And I was a head of production, and I used to get dozens of these show reels, and they're all beautifully edited. People don't want to see edited. They want to see live hits. They want to see fluency. They want to see good listening, good question skills. So a show reel, I think, is quite important. And second thing is persistence. It's a tough world. I mean, I graduated and I applied to 21 TV stations in England. I got one reply. But I was persistent, and I went up to see that person, and it led to an interview at Sky, and then that was it. Literally, I got the job. But it's a very competitive industry, so be prepared to fail. And when you do fail well, because there'll always be failure, because you don't learn anything unless you fail in life. That's how I see it anyway. And you've got to be persistent. And too, you made a big career change recently because you wanted to go with your heart, and your heart said, I'm going to do this job. This is who I am. And great respect to you for doing that. And I'm proud of how you're doing. Well done.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, it's funny enough. Actually, my opening line when I do moderating and stuff, when I introduce myself, is my name's Sanjay Murthy, and for 30 years I was a crap entrepreneur, and I lead into what I do. So I do, it's a bit of self-abuse, but there you go. Listen, mate, final question before we wrap up. What's the one you've been behind the scenes of so many events across the world? What's the one moment that stands out?
Well, 19 World Cup Final, second super over, and everyone was glued to the edge of their seat. As the director, I had to be impartial. I couldn't stand up, jump around, and cheer for England. No, obviously wanted England. Sure. I'm an MCC member, so Lords is my backyard. So lucky enough to do that game, and it was the game that never stopped giving, wasn't it? And it was insane. It was amazing. Yeah, and I get goosebumps just thinking about it. But something, walking out onto that field of play after the presentations, and the players were there with their wives and families, I felt a bit sad, actually, because I thought, wow, this is it. I'm never going to direct a better game than this. And I did actually think of all the people that weren't around that helped me shape my career. People like Martin Crowe, people like Tony Gregg, who I worked with a lot. And yeah, but then I raised a glass in the bowler's bar, and everything was good again. So yeah, no, it was it's epic, and it was just a wonderful advertisement for this beautiful game that we all love.
Yeah, and I've seen that. You sent me a video actually of the behind the scenes of that Super Over, and it's always amazed me how calm you are in these situations, given what's going on the pitch, the enormity of everything. Inside, you're a bit like a swan. I know you're called the Major, but you might have to change your nickname, mate. But Gav, listen, thank you for your time today. I hope you enjoyed it, and great insights into the world of TV, both front of house and back of house, if you like. And good luck in everything you do in the future. Gavin Scovell, thank you for being on Close of Play.
Thank you.